antidote to depression. I know that depression can get a hold of you so deeply that you feel like I will always have to take something to feel better. A pill or drink something or do something that I cannot get out of this abyss. It's sucking me in. But today I bring you hope. We're talking today, Pastor Robin, and thank you for joining me. What are the signs of depression? Because sometimes we're depressed and we don't know it. It's possible to be depressed and be functional. Cook, clean, iron, run a company, go to work, drive a car, go on vacation, go shopping, change your hairdo, polish your nails, do your feet, and still be depressed. Preach, sing, write songs, write books, and still be depressed. Okay? 1 Samuel 28:15 and 20.
Here begins the reading of God's holy word. Samuel said to Saul, "Why have you disturbed me by bringing me up?" "I am in great distress," Saul said. "The Philistines are fighting against me, and God has turned away from me. He no longer answers me, either by prophets or by dreams. So I have called on you to tell me what to do." Immediately Saul fell full length on the ground, filled with fear because of Samuel's words. His strength was gone, for he had eaten nothing all that day and night.
Now, here are some of the signs of depression. Now, just a tad background. Saul no longer hears from God. God has rejected him. He's not in the presence of God. He does not have an ongoing relationship with God. And he's so desperate to hear, to get information. He's in battle with the Philistines. He's fighting against David. He's losing control. Okay, he's emotionally out of control. So he went to a witch to call up Samuel and to hear from the dead. You know, like some of you want to hear from your dead grandmother and your dead uncle or your mother. It's the same thing, okay? And when he heard from Samuel, Samuel began to tell him about what would happen. And it was not a pretty picture. He became afraid. He had lost his strength because now he was weak. He had not eaten. Those are the signs of depression: fear, loss of appetite, anorexia, insomnia. Okay? So feelings of distress and despair, fear of the unknown, not sleeping and eating, intense anger, and feelings of rejection. These are just notable signs of what? Of depression. Not only that, what happens when you're chronically depressed? It's a sign that you are cherishing or nursing your grief. Grief is necessary. It's a real process, but it is not permanent. It should not be nursed. Now, I know what it is to grieve, Pastor Robin. My father died just a couple of years ago. I was very close to my father. My mother's been very sick, and thank God she's doing better, relatively better. But I have moments, even now, it's been over 5 years, and I still have moments of grief. But I am not sucked in by my grief. I don't nurse my grief. I think about my father and I get sad, but then I also talk about him in a healthy way. I talk about his funny ways. I talk about his jokes. I talk about his personality. I talk about the things that he did to bless me. I talk about the problems we had and the fights we had. As I begin to talk about him in a healthy, positive way, the grief lifts. But I could sit there and say, "Oh, I wish he was here," and "Oh, I can't live without him," and "Oh, if he were here, this would happen." That's what I mean by nursing your grief. You could have lost your job. "Oh my God, it was the best job in the world. What am I going to do now?" Whatever. Or a broken relationship. I never have another relationship. I will never trust another person. That is nursing your grief. What do you expect? After you say something like that, do you expect to wake up feeling good? No. Either you're going to eat, and I suggest overeat, yes, or you're not going to eat at all right? Lingering grief is caused by dwelling on discouraging elements of the situation. The more I linger on my grief is the more I become discouraged. I am discouraged because I keep looking at the things that are not positive, the things are not true. Philippians said, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of a good report. Here's the clincher. Think. Did I say think, Pastor Robin?
Think.
Okay. Think. Here's a biblical reference, Lamentations 3:32.
Though he brings grief, he will bring compassion. So great is his unfailing love.
Even though grief comes in our lives, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, the loss of a pet, the loss of money, the loss of jewelry, the loss of an opportunity, they are part of life. As long as you live, you're going to lose. You're going to lose something. What you have to do is believe that in the midst of grief, there is unfailing love. It's called the Hesed of God, Hesed, his faithfulness. When you know that he is faithful in the midst of it, he'll come up under the grief and lift it. Oh, I know what that is, Pastor Robin. When God can come up under the grief, I'm getting ready to go down, and I feel the grace of God just lifting me. That's how I've been able to make it without losing my mind. When the mind is filled with unhealthy thoughts, what happens? You have to change your paradigm. When I start thinking negatively, I have to shift my mind. The way we see things determines the way we react. The way I see people, the way I see circumstances, the way I view my loss will determine how I react. In your mind, you can convince yourself that you're sad, that you're worthless, that you're useless. And subsequently, you become depressed. You keep telling yourself that it will never work, and it won't work. Not because he's not able, but you don't have the ability to even see it even if he's working. Let's look at Psalm 23:7.
As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
I'm sorry, that's Proverbs 23:7.
Yes. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he.
Let's look at 1 Samuel 18:7-9.
As they danced, they sang. Saul has slain his thousands and David his 10,000s. Saul was very angry. This refrain galled him. They have credited David with tens of thousands, he thought, but me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom? And from that time on, Saul kept a jealous eye on David.
And he credited David with 10,000, he thought. Oh, I'm telling you, that's the area, that's the battleground. You know, Joyce Myers has a book out called The Battleground of the Mind. And I just believe you might have to go get a copy, because that's where the enemy fights you. You build this big picture without any facts. No truth. Just what you see or you feel, but nothing what God is saying. Well, let's reflect on this lesson today, Pastor Robin.
Separation from loved ones, hopes, and dreams can cause grief. We have learned today that grief is a natural process, but it can end. Start today thinking about your circumstances in a more positive manner. You must allow your mind to be renewed by the Word of God so that truth and hope can be restored. Once you allow God's intervention, you will begin to see the glass as half full rather than half empty.
Hear me. Please hear my heart today. I want to speak from my heart to yours. Grief is a natural human emotion. It's when we nurse it, exaggerate it, and we will not let it go, that it leads to depression. Get the CD, Exposing Satanic Wiles, and get a grip on grief.